Next on WCCO Mornings, arrests made in the recent violent crime spree in Minneapolis. Why one victim says relief isn't the only thing he's feeling.
Plus, the emotional memorial service for the 3 Burnsville first responders who were shot and killed a year ago.
Plus, how the lack of snow could impact plant growth and hurt our Minnesota lakes.
Airports, a whirlwind of activity and for many, anxiety. Despite the recent high-profile crashes, flying still a very safe mode of transportation. So why are many of us afraid to fly? Advice on how to conquer that fear. Good Wednesday morning to you and yours. Welcome to WCCO Mornings. We're streaming live on CBS News Minnesota. I'm AJ Hilton.
And I'm Heather Brown. Thanks so much for being with us here today. Let's get straight to your top headlines this morning. The Minneapolis Police Department has arrested 4 people, including 3 teenagers. This is for a crime spree that left 2 men injured.
Those 4 will be referred to the Hennepin County Attorney's Office, who will decide whether or not to charge them. Our Pauline Lee joins us from the live desk as we're hearing from one of those victims. This was the victim shot in the face, Pauline.
That's right. Boyd Hansen was just looking out his window when he caught a glimpse of the ongoing burglary before a bullet struck him near his mouth just more than a week ago. He says it's a huge relief now that the 4 people are off the streets. Let's take you back to last week here. 1 week ago yesterday, Minneapolis police responded to several burglaries, a robbery, a carjacking, and shots fired incident that occurred between 5 to 6:30 in the morning on February 11th. Part of that burglary, you see it right here, caught on camera, 4100 block of 25th Avenue South, and includes the moments shots were fired hitting Hansen. He showed us the scars now left on his face after a full jaw reconstruction from that bullet that hit him in the face, exiting his cheek, and was also lodged into his shoulder. He says he and others in the community are now on a mission to make the neighborhood safer.
People in their communities do have to stand up. We do have to come together as a community and, show that, we are strong, that we're here, that we're not going to live in fear.
A 34-year-old man, a 19-year-old man, and 2 17-year-old boys were taken into custody. Police were able to track down the car connected to the crime spree. It's in addition to another one the group allegedly stole in the same day. But we are still awaiting any potential charges. As soon as we find out more, we'll be sure to bring it to you guys.
All right, Pauline, thank you.
Well, a show of support and lights for 3 heroes who made the ultimate sacrifice. Buildings in Burnsville, they were shining blue and red for police officers Matthew Ruge, Paul Elmstred, and firefighter paramedic Adam Finseth. All of them died during a standoff with a gunman a year ago yesterday. In honor of those fallen first responders, Burnsville's mayor declared yesterday a public safety Memorial Day. Very emotional for many who attended a memorial at City Hall.
I came out to pay my respects to the fallen because my son's had issues in the past and I've had to deal with the police and EMTs. So I wanted to pay my respects to those we've lost.
One of the first responders' fellow officers was also shot but also survived.
Yeah, as WCCO's Jonah Kaplan reports, Sergeant Adam Medlicott marked the day with a mix of grief and gratitude.
It's tremendous to know that every day I get to go out and work and try to do the job to the ability that Paul and Matt could do it.
Sergeant Adam Medlicott was shot twice last February 18th, once in the arm and once in the back. He was back on patrol 3 months later.
Did you ever think of not coming back?
No.
Never thought?
No. I took advantage of the resources that were made available to me. I did therapy and I listened to advice and I followed the advice that people were giving me about, exercise, eating right, taking care of yourself to allow yourself to recover from that.
Medlicott said he learned a lot from friends in the military, including some suffering from PTSD after tours in Iraq and Afghanistan.
What resonated with me was you're going to experience a lot of things and it's going to be really hard to deal with. Just know it's normal and that every time you're dealing with this moment of insomnia or recalling an image or a smell or a memory that you don't want to have, just remind yourself that it's normal and it's okay and accept it and just process it.
What's it like being on or answering domestic calls again? What's it like answering shots fired calls again?
You just have to rely on your training in the moment. If you thought that every time you went to a domestic or every time there was shots fired or anything of that nature that you were going to get shot and your friends or you were going to get killed, nobody could do this job if that's the way you had that thought.
This is the home here where the standoff took place, 33rd Avenue and Burnsville Parkway. State investigators still finishing their after-action report, but here's what we do know from preliminary investigations. There were 7 children inside. And the shooter fired more than 100 rounds. Yes, tragically, the 3 first responders shot and killed. Sergeant Medlicott also hit. But there were as many as 14 officers within range. Inside PD headquarters, the reminders are everywhere. In the lobby for the public and the garage for all patrols. Looking back and moving forward, it's a tough balancing act. But that's why the halls also boast plenty of reminders about taking care of yourself. Police officers are able to access therapy 24/7. They can cheer up with not 1, but 2 wellness dogs. They can kick back in what's called the Zen Den. Even hit the gym during a shift.
To take care of the community, we need to be able to take care of ourselves and each other.
And has that happened?
I think so. I think the fact that everybody who was on that scene that day has come back. The resilience that our folks have shown, I'm so proud to work with them and see them continue to come back and do the job that they were called to.
The deputy chief calling Sergeant Medlicott a true leader, not just for Burnsville, but for officers everywhere.
Law enforcement is a calling, not a job, and it was a calling for me, and that's where I feel the most comfortable and the most fulfilled, and the most that I can make the most impact in my department and this community.
And for Medlicott, being back is his ultimate badge of honor, and the best way to honor his friends.
They were the officers you wanted in your street, coming to your house and helping you. So the best way I can honor them is by coming to work and working the way they would have worked.
In Burnsville, Jonah Kaplan, WCCO News.
So right now, Burnsville police are raising money to send the entire department to Washington, D.C. for Police Week this May. That is when the officers' names will be added to the National Police Memorial.
Well, you might not believe it because of the weather that we're having this week and because we know and live in Minnesota what happens, but we might not have much winter left.
No.
Despite the cold this season. The Twin Cities has only seen 16 inches of snow. Really? Well below the 3 feet that is typically piled on the ground by now. We asked environmentalists what that lack of snow for Minnesota means. They say consecutive years without big spring melts will slow a tree's growth. Plants with shallow roots, like those in your garden, might die off without insulation from snow, while plants with deeper roots, like some weeds, could thrive. It could also lessen how many seeds or fruits a plant will bear. Winter air also speeds up water evaporation. An ice layer can protect lakes from that, but ice needs snow to cover to reflect UV rays. Otherwise, it melts faster and sooner, exposing water.
We rely on a lot of snow for bringing in water early in the spring when it melts. And that's a time when the trees are having big bursts of growth and they need that water.
Not only does a heavy melt provide plants with water while quickly replenishing lake levels, it brings nutrients that are a key to a body of water's ecology. A pattern of dry winters makes waterways more reliant on spring and summer rains to stay healthy.
7:09 now. Let's take a look at that pretty sunrise right there over the Mississippi River. A cold one once again, Joseph, today. Not cold enough to delay the schools or close them down, but certainly dangerously still cold.
And it's only about 5 degrees warmer than yesterday morning and Monday morning, all right? Wind chills have come down just a little bit as well, but I mean, look at this. This is our feels like temperature right now. 29 below in the Twin Cities. I was just going back and looking at the wind chills through the last 17 days. The last time that we had a wind chill that was above 0 degrees throughout a day was February 2nd, okay? Yesterday, our wind chill bottomed out at 28 below, and we had the next weather alert. It's 29 below right now in the Twin Cities, okay? So it's still very, very cold out there. 40 below out to the west. This is where we still have an extreme cold warning. Here locally, we have a cold weather advisory indicating about a wind chill around 25 below. We have just surpassed that a little bit, all right? 28 below out of Blaine, 26 below for Eden Prairie, 25 below for Jordan. Still very, very cold. Make sure you get the gloves, you get that good winter gear in place for today. Just use the same stuff you've had the last few days. That will be good. All right, so check out this sunrise. A beautiful, beautiful start. You can kind of see some atmospheric optics going on with the sun right there with the lights kind of beaming to the side. But Too bad those clouds didn't arrive earlier, because that would have helped us out with our temperatures a little bit more this morning. But here they are, and those clouds will increase as we kind of work through the morning. 10 below in the Twin Cities, feels like 29 below. I mentioned that. The wind is running out of the northwest about 5 to 10 miles per hour. If you follow these arrows here, this will show you the direction of the clouds, and they are streaming in, and they will continue to stream on in today. I expect those to bring some snow showers up north and some more cloud coverage for us this afternoon, meaning we won't get as much sunshine as the last few days. Well, here's all of our cold weather alerts, but look it. They stream all the way down to Texas and into the deep south. That cold air that we've been enduring for days has now also traveled all the way down to the southern portion of the United States. They will also be dealing with some very cold temperatures relative to their location there. All right, so when will we get into the positives today? I think it arrives right around lunchtime. You can see by 2 p.m. we're at 5 degrees. We top off around 6 or so this afternoon. 20s by the time we wrap up this week. 40s by the time we wrap up this weekend. We'll talk about that change in the weather pattern, if it will stick around for the end of the month. I'll have that coming up at 7:30.
All right, Joseph, thank you. Let's take you out to Shoreview when it comes to your next drive. Minor accident that's popped up. This is going to be on 694. Matter of fact, this is 694 eastbound. You can see it's tough to make out there, but if you look on to the right there are 2 cars that are off to the shoulder there. Now, I was thinking maybe the sunrise, there's some glare before, so grab those sunglasses this morning because it could be an incident, but this is very isolated in nature. Take a look at the traffic map. We are not following anything that's going to seriously slow you down this morning, which is good news. So no major delays on this Wednesday morning.
All right. Plane crashes in Toronto and then last month in Washington, D.C. have likely created or amplified fears people have of flying. And if that includes you, you should know you're not alone.
It's called aerophobia, and according to the Cleveland Clinic, 25 million people in the United States have it. This often affects younger people. Think late teens to mid-30s. That age range coincides with when anxiety can start or intensify for people, which in turn can influence aerophobia.
So what causes it? Well, one, maybe you had a bad experience on a plane, like a rough landing or extreme turbulence. News stories about crashes make people think it could also happen to them. And then finally, and this is probably the biggest one, the lack of control. WCCO spoke with a therapist who said that even though most people haven't experienced a crash or in-flight emergency, seeing those crashes on the news makes them visualize it happening to them.
Nobody was born with the fear of flying. So it was learned at some point and we can unlearn it. And I think that first mindset is so important because a lot of people surrender themselves to saying, I'm always going to be a fearful flyer. I'll just never be able to fly. I hate flying. It's just not for me. And that is the first mistake right there. You can become someone who's comfortable with flying.
Jenny Matthews says overcoming a fear of flying doesn't happen overnight. It's something to chip away at over time. She says avoiding flying, however, will only make the fear of flying worse. Matthews is based here in the Twin Cities. She's hosting a workshop next month at MSP International Airport called Navigating Flight Anxiety. She also has an online course that people can take, and we have information for both attached to the story on our website, WCCO.com.
Coming up, finally, a green light. We'll tell you the latest step for Minnesota businesses hoping to get a license to sell cannabis. Shayla?
And hopefully you'll bring your appetite back. We are talking about stories behind the menu. And this time, these salmon croquettes, courtesy Flame Mobile Kitchen, the latest business to be featured. We'll talk about those few tickets that are still available and how you can snag one too when we come back.
take a look now at your next drive. For the most part, things look really good out there. Not seeing a lot of red, hardly any yellow or even orange, so things are quiet here on this Wednesday morning. But we do have this one crash to tell you about. This is down in Apple Valley. Let's take you down to that spot. So this is 35E. This is coming northbound here. You can see that the first responder, the State Patrol, is there on scene. This is right near Highway 77. It looks like there also might be another crash in this spot too. So you can see that truck stopped up further on the road there. So we're making some calls trying to figure out what's going on in this spot. But the only problem area you have to worry about right now down here in Apple Valley. So Stories Behind the Menu. It's a unique chance to learn the background of what goes into dishes that are made by chefs. And you got Flame Mobile Kitchen, one of the spots being highlighted. We got Shayla Reeves out in Golden Valley this morning with Flame Mobile Kitchen. Shayla, we're learning lots of great stuff out there.
Oh, we are, and I wish you could smell the food in here. It smells absolutely divine. Heather, I'm here right now with the founder of Stories Behind the Menu and the latest business to be featured, Flame Mobile Kitchen. Start with you, Shay, though. Why did you feel Stories Behind the Menu was necessary? And for folks not familiar, exactly what is it?
So I wanted to showcase people of color and tell their story about their true cuisine and how they're changing lives in the United States.
And you're creating this space through this concept that's now gone national. Why did you feel that Flame was the right fit for a business to feature this year?
Well, you know, they have grown in the last 5 years by just traveling throughout the Twin Cities. And I think it was their time to be showcased how these two, what do you call each other? The DBA brothers?
Yeah.
Is that right?
The other brothers?
Yeah, the other brothers, right? And I was like, let's showcase them. Let's set them off in 2025. And it's their time. It's their time.
It's their time. And to hear her say that, what does that mean to you when you think about your journey with Flame?
It just, we're grateful. We're appreciative of the opportunity. I know that the team has worked really hard to put ourselves in this position. And we are grateful that Shay has provided us this platform through Stories.
Yes, and through Flame, you've been able to show people that food, you can have some of the foods you love, but you can have a little bit of a healthy twist on it too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We don't fry any food. Everything is smoked, grilled, or baked. And we do everything from barbecues to high-end cuisines.
Yeah, and tell us about some of the cuisine food that people will be able to enjoy during your day tomorrow.
Well, what you have here is a salmon croquette with mustard dill areola. And so that's one of the items that's going to be on the menu. And so we have 4 more courses for folks to try.
And your business partner, Chef Darren, will be working very hard, Darren Haynes, to make sure that that menu is ready to go for folks tomorrow. Shay, for folks that want to snag any of those last-minute tickets, just a few left, where should they go?
They're going to have to email my project manager. Shout out to Candace. Email her at hello@storiesbehindthemenu.co. She might have a few tickets left. Don't be mad, Candace.
That's absolutely wonderful. Well, I guess we should try this. This is something folks will be able to have tomorrow. It's a salmon croquette.
Let's dig in.
And let's see what we're trying here.
Yes. Enjoy.
Oh, that's delicious.
That's good.
Heather, I wish you could try this.
I wish I could.
If you're lucky,
too.
I'll bring some back.
I know. Thank you. I love
If you're lucky.
Flame Mobile Kitchen. All right, Shayla,
Yes.
thank you.
Always delicious.
And now to a major step towards getting legal weed business going here in Minnesota. The Office of Cannabis Management has announced it is now accepting business applications from both social equity applicants and the general public. A lottery this summer will determine who gets them. Now, cannabis leaders have said that they hope to open up the state's first dispensaries sometime this year. Coming up, we'll have another update on your next weather, plus more of this morning's top headlines, including the celebration happening today for an Indigenous activist, now home after spending 50 years in prison. Plus, paying less at the pump. What is happening in our nation's capital that could lower your prices of gas?
watching WCCO Mornings, always streaming on CBS News Minnesota.
Good Wednesday morning, 7:26 now. Joseph Love here next with the forecast coming up in just a minute. But first, today, a unique celebration is being held to welcome Leonard Peltier home. He is an 80-year-old Indigenous activist who had been serving a life sentence for the deaths of 2 FBI agents. Now, they were killed, those agents, during a standoff on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota back in 1975. Joe Biden had commuted Peltier's sentence right before leaving office. And today, the NDN Collective, that's Indigenous activist and advocacy organization, they'll be hosting a welcome home event for Peltier in North Dakota. You can live stream it at noon on NDN Collective's Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn accounts. Let's take a look now at your next drive. Things are starting to pick up here on this Wednesday morning. We do have a couple of crashes to share with you. I want to take you out here to St. Paul because this is causing some backups. This is eastbound 94 here. 2 vehicles. The crash is blocking here. No injuries, but they do need a tow, so you might have some slowdowns coming through this area. Joseph?
Okay, let's take a look at what we have going on here this morning. You can see some clouds, more clouds than the last couple of mornings, right? Those will be streaming on through, but you can see that light coming through those ice crystals, and it's a pretty cool view right there. All right, very, very cold this morning, still 10 below. Feels like 27 below right now. We still have a cold weather advisory in place until 9 a.m. this morning. A high today of 610 just to the north of us. Hey, some big time improvements this weekend. You're going to want to see them. I'll show you that coming up at 7:30 at CBS News Minnesota.
You're watching WCCO Mornings, always streaming on CBS News Minnesota.
We're upside down, and that's when it hits you. I'm in a plane crash. I'm in an
Next on WCCO Mornings, a harrowing plane crash leaves 80 survivors shaken but grateful to even be alive. The unanswered questions they still have for Delta.
Plus, the new superintendent and cell phone rules for students at St. Paul Public Schools.
Also, what President Trump and Elon Musk talked about during their first sit-down interview together.
And silencing a senator. Why Republicans say a DFL lawmaker accused of burglary should be stripped of her powers.
Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday. I'm AJ Hilton.
And I'm Heather Brown. We begin this morning with a Maple Plain man is finally back at home. This after his Delta flight crash landed in Toronto Monday afternoon after taking off from Minneapolis.
Just unbelievable. Our Pauline Lee joins us from the live desk with why he says he feels truly lucky just to be alive. Pauline.
And I think a lot of people share that sentiment, guys. Yeah, Matt Cunningham says he walked into a big pile of hugs when he got home, but he and so many others are now wondering how this all happened in the first place. Well, he was one of the 80 people on board when the plane came in hard for that landing. You see it here, losing a wing, flipping upside down, and then catching fire. He says he was sitting in a window seat about 8 rows back from the exit at the front of the plane, and he remembers the passenger next to him helping him get his seatbelt off as they fell onto the luggage overhead compartments that was now below them. They also tried to reorient themselves on an upside-down plane, and here's what he said he saw and heard happen next.
There was some shouting back and forth. Is somebody opening the doors? You know, we need to get off this plane. The smell of jet fuel became very strong. We could see jet fuel going over the windows, pooling up. Seeing the videos today of the fireball we landed in, it just seems inconceivable that we weren't on fire.
Well, 2 people still remain in the hospital in critical condition. Air officials now say that 21 of the 80 people on board were hurt, but it was thankfully everyone is expected to recover, guys.
It's just unbelievable when you just that image, Pauline, of that plane flipped upside down with the wings clipped, and to know that everyone survived that, it's astounding.
It's a miracle.
It is. Thanks for that update.
Now, one of the critical reasons that everyone did survive was the speed and getting all of those passengers off of that upside down plane. It only took a matter of minutes.
This is the reason that we are on the plane, is to evacuate passengers from a crash landing like this safely. And they did that, all 80 people. Now, they did their jobs perfectly.
So when we hear about that next briefing, we'll be sure to bring it to you. Watch for updates right here on WCCO and online at WCCO.com.
New this morning, the St. Paul Public School Board of Education made a couple of changes, and this is going to affect students. Last night, the board approved Dr. Stacy Stanley as the next superintendent. She will start May 12th. They also passed new rules regarding student cell phones. Cell phones and personal electronic devices will no longer be allowed during school hours. This means they can either be left at home in their lockers, but they have to be off and out of sight. Those new rules go into effect this fall.
In their first joint interview since President Donald Trump took office, he and billionaire Elon Musk discussed their wide-sweeping efforts to slash spending and shrink the size of the federal workforce.
And as CBS News' Jared Hill tells us, thousands of employees across several government agencies received termination notices, even though some received those notices by mistake.
On Fox News, President Donald Trump and his senior advisor Elon Musk defended their aggressive efforts to slash through the federal government.
All we're really trying to do here is restore the will of the people through the president.
He gets it done. He's a leader. The interview aired hours after a federal judge in D.C. denied a request from 14 Democrat-led states to block Musk's Department of Government Efficiency from accessing data systems and firing workers at 7 government agencies.
What do we want?
Tuesday, crowds protested outside the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, one of multiple agencies hit by thousands of job cuts. But along the way, DOJ has made errors. Just last night, the Department of Agriculture admitted it's trying to get back workers who were accidentally fired. Veterinarians and animal health technicians working to prevent the spread of bird flu.
One of the biggest functions of the DOJ team is just making sure that the presidential executive orders are actually carried out.
On that front, Tuesday, President Trump signed executive orders directing his administration to find ways to reduce the cost of in vitro fertilization, and another to rein in independent government agencies like the Federal Trade Commission, further extending the power of the White House. Jared Hill, CBS News.
The strong reactions are flowing in regarding the mass layoffs. CBS News talked with voters on the cuts at the FAA and at the CDC, and they had a wide range of opinions.
Everything just feels very indiscriminately done. There's no purpose
to it. They're just slashing people without any kind of thoughtful consideration of what they do, what their job is.
I think it was a little quick. I think you probably could have rolled it out a little better, but I think overall it's going to be good in the long run.
So the White House says it is the federal agencies that are making the decisions about who to cut. Now let's turn here to Minnesota politics. State Senate Republicans filed a new ethics complaint against the embattled DFL Senator Nicole Mitchell, who does face burglary felony charges.
Now, last month, they tried to force a vote to oust her from the chamber because of those allegations. She was the deciding vote, blocking that vote from happening. Well, on the new complaint, GOP members say that the vote is a clear violation of Senate rules against conflicts of interest, since she has a personal and financial stake in her political future.
We'll continue to try to hold Senator Mitchell accountable until this is resolved. This has really been a cloud over the Senate's head. It's an inability to get our business done without the question of legitimacy moving forward.
Mitchell has pleaded not guilty to the charges against her. Her trial will not happen until session is over, but ethics complaints do not relate to any court proceedings. Mitchell's attorney said that he did not have any comment on the new ethics complaint. As for that new felony charge, he said in part, quote, "For anyone to read an amended complaint and believe that they have seen new evidence shows that they do not understand what evidence is. Since a criminal complaint is always and only an accusation, it is not evidence," end quote. Lawmakers are discussing a range of bills, though, helping you put food on the table, also to helping get your gas and make it cheaper.
Yeah, first, the House committee wants to repeal state laws that protect trans women and girls and ban them from competing in women's sports. This comes after President Trump's executive order. And to the Senate now, where they're discussing a bill that would increase funding for food shelves over the next 2 years. According to the food group Minnesota, food shelf visits are on the rise.
They say there were 7.5 million visits in 2023 and 9 million just last year. Well, this new legislation would provide $8 million in funding to food shelves.
And lastly, U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar, along with the support of 13 senators from both sides of the aisle, is pushing to make E15 available year-round. Now, E15 is a gasoline with ethanol blends higher than 10%. Supporters say that this would lower fuel prices and help farmers and consumers. The EPA used to ban year-round sales because of concerns about air pollution in the summer, but last year, the EPA did allow year-round sales in 8 Midwestern states.
It's 7:38 on this Wednesday. Let's give you a live look outside. The view from St. Paul looking toward Minneapolis. A little bit of cloud cover, but the sun, it is up today. But Joseph, it's much more the same, but still dangerous values this morning when it comes to the temperature.
Yeah, day three in a row. All right, this is very tough. We have temperatures back down to 15 below, guys. And the wind chill about 25 to 30 below in some locations. So here's the difference from maybe yesterday or the morning before that, all right? We do not have the extreme cold warning anymore. We have been lowered down to a cold weather advisory because we are anticipating the wind chills to be a little bit lower. But I will point out that I saw wind chills approaching 30 below this morning, which is just about the same as yesterday, all right? So still take this serious. It's going to be a cold morning. All right, so let's take a look at the latest temperatures. This is from the Weather Watcher Network. So they're sending them in, and this is what's in their backyard or their report. Ken embodying Stillwater at 9 below this morning. Kathy Monticello there at 13 below. And Deborah and Cannon Falls coming in at 10 below. That's the air temperature. It's going to feel more like 25 below this morning. Some improvements this afternoon. We're still on a 3-day stretch here where it's going to be below average, but by Friday, we're only going to be about maybe 5 degrees below average. The average high now is in the 30s. All right, so 5 below is in the 20s. That's a pretty tolerable temperature compared to what we had going on early this week. And in fact, there might be a couple locations where it might even be about average or above heading in the end of the week. All right, so we have some cloud coverage that's moving in from the north and northeast. And usually this is going to be peeling away from us. But this time around, based off of the airflow, we do have those clouds creeping down towards the Twin Cities. So anything that you're seeing right now outside your window, that might be some clouds, is from this patch right here. But these are going to move in, traveling towards us as we head into this afternoon. So I do anticipate things to be less sunny than yesterday, and I do anticipate the afternoon to have some clouds around. All right, they're really not going to drop any snowflakes for us here locally, but up north I think we could get some snow showers. And up north right now it's looking great. We have about a foot of snowfall and even more in some locations through the Arrowhead there, and we have about 3 inches or so still on the ground from what we had Friday into Saturday, and then the snow that arrived the weekend before that, all right? So we're doing pretty good, and that cold air that's been in place for the last 10 days has preserved everything, all right? So if you're looking outside, you're seeing plenty of snow. Awesome for cross-country skiing, just skiing in general, and all the activities we've had so far this February. Well, heading into the weekend, we're going to take these cold temperatures, we're going to boost them up to the 20s on Friday. Saturday and Sunday, though, check out what happens. Saturday, I have a high of 32 degrees. Yeah, it's going to be a little cloudy, but those temperatures will at least be on the warmer side. Average is 31 come Saturday. We're right there, all right? Our average now is at the freezing point, the freezing mark. So that just tells you that we are steadily getting warmer here. All right, Sunday at 40, and we'll start to see some melting going on. And I think we'll probably get a couple days in the 40s early next week. So big change from the pattern that we've had over the last 2 weeks or so. All right, I'm going to show you the forecast here. High pressure, clear skies for the most part as we go into Thursday. Friday, about the same. And then notice as we head into the weekend, we start seeing some changes. Here's Sunday night. There's some rain and maybe some winter weather to the north. That system clears out. It pretty much avoids us. But now weather models are picking up on some moisture on Monday, mainly in the form of some rain, cold rain, and a chance for a winter mix mixing in, all right? So that's something that we're going to monitor heading into the weekend. Not all the models are coming into agreement with that yet. So I'm just going to go with a chance for precipitation on Monday night heading into Tuesday. And with temperatures in the 40s, upper 30s, it's probably just going to end up being a cold rain, which might mess with our commute Tuesday morning if it freezes. 6 to 15 to 25, you know, the weekend's going to be warm. We'll just monitor that system on Monday to see if we're going to bring in any sort of rain. Other than that, we're good.
All right, Joseph, thank you. Let's take a look now at your next drive. Things will start to pick up here. You know, Wednesday morning, usually pretty busy out there, and you can see that on the roads. We do have a couple crashes to tell you about. I'm going to start you out here in Roseville. So this is 36. This is westbound here. This is on Cleveland. It is pulled over to the side of the road here, but this is backing up traffic just a bit. Let's take you back here to Snelling. You can see it making its way. Let's see if I can get you better. Yeah, it's hard to tell.
It's almost to 35, though, isn't it?
Is it?
It's almost to 35, yeah. It's getting closer there.
Yeah.
Here you go. Here's one of them. At Dale Street. It's starting to pick up a little bit there.
So that one is, so just be careful if you're making way through Roseville. Hopefully they can that cleared pretty soon. Also, Shoreview, this is over 694, and this one is going eastbound here, right at Victoria, also on the side of the road, but it's busy out there. It's cold out there, so just be careful if you're heading out on the roads.
Black ice is not something you want to be a part of and deal with on the morning like today. Well, today a unique celebration is being held to welcome home Leonard Peltier.
He is the 80-year-old Indigenous activist who is serving a life sentence for the deaths of 2 FBI agents. Those agents killed during a standoff on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota back in 1975. Well, then President Joe Biden commuted his sentence right before leaving office.
Susan Elizabeth Littlefield spoke with some of his supporters who have spent decades trying to secure his freedom.
After half a century, their cries have been heard. 80-year-old Leonard Peltier is leaving a Florida prison for his North Dakota home, saying, "Today I am finally free. They may have imprisoned me, but they never took my spirit. Thank you to all my supporters throughout the world who fought for my freedom. I am finally going home." It's a moment Ruth Anna Buffalo has spent years fighting for as a state representative in North Dakota.
What emotions go through you?
Happy and hopeful that, you know, justice and the efforts to continue supporting tribal peoples throughout our country continues.
Leonard's sister and niece celebrated too.
Emphasis on the historical day because it really is not even, I mean, not just only for us as a family, but the Native people.
Leonard and witnesses have maintained his innocence. The former FBI director didn't see the case that way, saying in a letter to Biden, granting Peltier any relief from his conviction or sentence is wholly unjustified and would be an affront to the rule of law, referring to the 2 FBI agents who were killed during the 1975 standoff.
I just definitely feel for the families who have lost loved ones because I don't believe that pain will ever go away. But hopefully there will come a time where potentially both parties can come together and have a conversation.
After 50 long years, she says it's a day of sadness and celebration.
I hope that we can learn from the past, as they say, and try to move forward.
With photojournalist Ari Mendoza, Susan Elizabeth Littlefield, WCCO News.
Peltier did not want his sentence pardoned because it might suggest guilt, so it was commuted. He will serve the rest of his sentence at home on Turtle Mountain Reservation in North Dakota.
Today, the NDN Collective, that's an Indigenous activist and advocacy organization, they're hosting a welcome home event for Peltier. It'll be hosted at the Sky Dancer Event Center in Bellacourt, North Dakota. Starts at noon. You can live stream that on NDN Collective's Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn accounts.
Still to come, got to update you on today's weather and more of this morning's top headlines.
Then home building could get even more expensive in the coming months. The reason some are already uneasy about the cost rising going forward.
Welcome back. Homebuilder confidence going down and a healthier new drink from Coca-Cola. You better believe we're looking out for your money this morning. Let's start this month with homebuilder confidence because it did decrease amid President Trump's aggressive approach to tariffs. The National Association of Home Builders Housing Market Index measures builder confidence, and that index fell to its lowest level in 5 months. This month, the Trump administration imposed a 25% tariff on all steel and aluminum imports into the country. That move could worsen America's housing shortage. Builders could see even higher prices, higher costs, I should say, if the president moves forward with his proposal of 25% tariffs on Canada. That is scheduled to begin March 1st. Coca-Cola is jumping into the prebiotic soda category with a new beverage that's being touted as good for your health. It's called Simply Pop, expected to roll out later this month. The drink apparently going to come in 5 flavors, going to contain vitamins to support gut health. They'll be sold by the case on Amazon and in 12-ounce cans will be available at the grocery store. Give you a live look outside on this still very, very frigid Wednesday morning. Next weather meteorologist Joseph Dames letting us know when it's going to warm up.
All right, good morning to everyone and happy Wednesday. We are back into the positives this afternoon. Yeah, it's not much, but we are going to get to at least 6 degrees. I just have to show you this, though. The clouds are moving in today, all right? We're going to have some cloud coverage starting about lunchtime or so. Still going to feel like it's below zero, but we are slowly getting warmer, and we'll continue on that trend as we wrap up the week. 6 for the Twin Cities, 10 today for Hinckley.
All right, Joseph, thank you. Let's also update you on your next drive. Let's start off with the traffic map because we are following a couple of incidents. Matter of fact, the newest incident we are following, that is going to be actually, this is the old incident that we're following on Highway 36 in Cleveland, on Cleveland Avenue. This is going to be over in Rosedale. So this looks to be clearing up here, which is good news. Hopefully that backup, it starts to alleviate itself here very soon. The newest crash we are following, that is going to be on 94 in Portland. That's in Minneapolis. As you're making your way through downtown Minneapolis, it's just before you get to the Lowry Tunnel. Looks like 3 vehicles involved in this. And one more that we want to update you on, that's going to be up in Shoreview. This is 694 at Victoria Street. This is going to be on 694. This is eastbound as you make your way toward 35W. You see those first responders up there. Make sure you grab those sunglasses and take it slow this morning. We want to make sure that you don't hit any black ice and run into any slick spots. Well, as always, we work to keep you up to date with the latest news, the latest weather developments all day here on the stream. And here's something happening today. Some Twin Cities healthcare workers are hosting a pop-up clinic as a sign of protest. These are part of the ongoing Doctors Against Genocide national campaign. They say their goal is to educate on genocide sickness and address health needs while also organizing an end to the war in Gaza. These clinics are named Kamal Adwan, which was the last remaining medical facility in North Gaza that was left out of commission after the Israeli army raided it. So we understand the pop-up protests will be taking place on the East Bank at Nicholson Hall. That's on the University of Minnesota's campus from 1:30 to 4:30 on the East Bank today. We'll be back with more news headlines after we take a quick break.
watching WCCO Mornings, always streaming on CBS News Minnesota.
Good morning and thanks for joining us. I'm AJ Hilton. Joseph Dames will check in with his next weather forecast in just a second. I want to start with something happening today. Some Twin Cities healthcare workers are hosting a pop-up clinics, I should say, as a sign of protest. These are part of the ongoing Doctors Against Genocide national campaign. They say their goal is to educate on genocide sickness and address health needs while organizing to end the war in Gaza. These will take place on the East Bank at Nicholson Hall on the University of Minnesota's campus from 1:30 until 4:30 today. When it comes to your next drive, a couple of incidents that we are following, and the good news, it looks like these are wrapping up. Take a look at your screen right here. See those exclamation points? Some of these have cleared, which is the good news I was just talking about. Want to take you up to Roseville because this was an incident on 36, which has since cleared, which is good news. Over in Shoreview, it's the same situation. This is in the clearing stages on 694 eastbound at Victoria, and one more. 94 and Portland Avenue. This looks to be in the clearing stages in downtown Minneapolis. This crash was westbound just before you get to the Lowry Tunnel. But Joseph Dames, it's still cold and probably need those sunglasses today.
Yeah, you're going to need them definitely this morning. A few more clouds, though, as we head into the afternoon. You can see as we get to about 10 or 11 a.m., we start factoring in a few more clouds. But it is very, very cold, all right? Still, all right? 10 below right now in the Twin Cities. Feels like 27 below. There is a bit of a wind gust out there, about 15 to 20 miles per hour. High temperatures today should reach about 6. Sunnier down to the southwest and cooler. Updates at 8.
You're watching WCCO Mornings, always streaming on CBS News Minnesota.
Next on WCCO Mornings, arrests in a high-profile Minneapolis crime spree, how victims are reacting as they face a long road to recovery.
Then the emotional memorial service, I should say, for the 3 Burnsville first responders who were shot and killed a year ago.
Plus, it started with a snowball fight. Now a young boy is facing a fight no child should have to experience. Hear his battle against a rare opponent.
And later, the Holy Family girls hockey team will play in the state tournament for the first time. How they broke a long streak to get there and why one of their coaches will not be attending. Good morning. Welcome to WCCO Mornings. We are live on our free streaming channel each weekday right here on CBS News Minnesota. I'm AJ Hilton.
And I'm Heather Brown. We do want to get straight to your top headlines this morning. We begin with the Minneapolis Police Department. They have arrested 4 people, including 3 teenagers. This is for a crime spree that left 2 men injured.
Now, we know those 4 will be referred to the Hennepin County Attorney's Office, who will then decide whether to charge them. Our Pauline Lee joins us from the live desk because, Pauline, we're hearing from one of those victims shot in the face.
Yeah, just a remarkable story here of recovery. Boyd Hansen was just looking out his window when he got a glimpse of that ongoing burglary before a bullet struck him near his mouth just more than a week ago. He says it's a huge relief that these 4 people are off the streets. Let's take you back to last week. It was actually 1 week ago yesterday. Minneapolis police responding to several burglaries, a robbery, carjacking, and shots fired incident that occurred between 5 and 6:30 in the morning on February 11th. One of those burglaries caught on camera. You see it right here on the 4100 block of 25th Avenue South. That includes the moments shots were fired hitting Hansen. He showed us the scars now left from a full jaw reconstruction from that bullet that hit his face, exited his cheek, and then was lodged into his shoulder as well. He says he and the others in the community are now on a mission to make the neighborhood safer.
People in their communities do have to stand up. You know, we do have to come together as a community and, show that, we are strong, that we're here, that we're not going to live in fear.
A 34-year-old man and a 19-year-old man and 2 17-year-old boys were taken into custody. Police were actually able to track down the car connected to the crime spree in addition to another one that the group allegedly stole that same day. If you guys remember, back when this happened, the police chief said this was very disturbing,
right?
This case and
Scary.
all. Yeah, very scary.
It certainly is. All right, Pauline, we appreciate that update. Thank you. A show of support in lights for 3 heroes who made the ultimate sacrifice. Buildings in Burnsville, they shined blue and red for police officers Matthew Ruge, Paul Elmstrad, and firefighter paramedic Adam Finseth, all of them dying during a standoff with a gunman a year ago yesterday. In honor of those fallen first responders, Burnsville's mayor declared yesterday Public Safety Memorial Day, a very emotional day for many who attended a memorial at City Hall.
I came out to pay my respects to the fallen because my son's had issues in the past and I've had to deal with the police and the EMTs. So I want to pay my respects to those we've lost.
One of the first responders' fellow officers was also shot but survived.
As WCCO's Jonah Kaplan reports, Sergeant Adam Medlicott marked the day with a mix of grief and gratitude.
It's tremendous to know that every day I get to go out and work and try to do the job to the ability that Paul and Matt could do it.
Sergeant Adam Medlicott was shot twice last February 18th, once in the arm and once in the back. He was back on patrol 3 months later.
Did you ever think of not coming back?
No.
Never thought?
No. I took advantage of the resources that were made available to me. I did therapy and I listened to advice and I followed the advice that people were giving me about, exercise, eating right, taking care of yourself to allow yourself to recover from that.
Medlicott said he learned a lot from friends in the military, including some suffering from PTSD after tours in Iraq and Afghanistan.
What resonated with me was you're going to experience a lot of things and it's going to be really hard to deal with. Just know it's normal and that every time you're dealing with this moment of insomnia or recalling an image or a smell or a memory that you don't want to have, just remind yourself that it's normal and it's okay and accept it and just process it.
What's it like being on or answering domestic calls again? What's it like answering shots fired calls again.
You just have to rely on your training in the moment. If you thought that every time you went to a domestic or every time there was shots fired or anything of that nature that you were going to get shot and your friends or you were going to get killed, nobody could do this job if that's the way you had that thought.
This is the home here where the standoff took place, 33rd Avenue and Burnsville Parkway. State investigators still finishing their after-action report, but here's what we do know from preliminary investigations. There were 7 children inside, and the shooter fired more than 100 rounds. Yes, tragically, the 3 first responders shot and killed. Sergeant Medlicott also hit, but there were as many as 14 officers within range. Inside PD headquarters, the reminders are everywhere, in the lobby for the public and the garage for all patrols. Looking back and moving forward, it's a tough balancing act, but that's why the halls also boast plenty of reminders about taking care of yourself. Police officers are able to access therapy 24/7. They can cheer up with not 1, but 2 wellness dogs. They can kick back in what's called the Zen Den, even hit the gym during a shift.
To take care of the community, we need to be able to take care of ourselves and each other.
And has that happened?
I think so. I think the fact that everybody who was on that scene that day has come back. The resilience that our folks have shown, I'm so proud to work with them and see them continue to come back and do the job that they were called to.
The deputy chief calling Sergeant Medlicott a true leader, not just for Burnsville, but for officers everywhere.
Law enforcement is a calling, not a job, and it was a calling for me, and that's where I feel the most comfortable and the most fulfilled and the most that I can make the most impact in my department and this community.
And for Medlicott, being back is his ultimate badge of honor and the best way to honor his friends.
They were the officers you wanted in your street, coming to your house and helping you. So the best way I can honor them is by coming to work and working the way they would have worked.
In Burnsville, Jonah Kaplan, WCCO News.
Now, right now, Burnsville police are raising money to send the entire department to Washington, D.C. for Police Week. That'll be this May, and that is when the officers' names will be added to the National Police Memorial.
About 8 minutes past the 8 o'clock hour, live looking downtown Minneapolis. The sun is up, which is great news. The problem is, Joseph, that it's not providing any warmth, at least not right now.
Nope, not at all. It is still very, very cold. This is day 3 mornings in a row. I know I sound like I'm just griping here, but I kind of am. I mean, it's 25 to 30 below this morning. It's still very, very cold. Still need all the good winter gear that you've been using for the last couple of days. Just take it out again and use it again today. Temperatures feeling more like the mid-30s. Out to the west there, very close to 40 below. So that's why we still have some alerts out in the west, and we still have a cold weather advisory in place until 9 a.m. for another hour. 27 below in the Twin Cities, feels like 27 below in Blaine. That's the feels like temperature. The actual air temperature is 10 below right now in the Twin Cities, and the wind is running out of the northwest about 5 to 10 miles per hour. Not great. We did have some clouds pass on by from this patch down to the south, but now we're watching north and northeast. And if you follow these arrows, you can kind of see the general flow of what's going on. So clouds are going to increase for us along the 94 corridor, especially through Pine County here shortly, through about Mille Lacs County there. Those clouds will start to move in this afternoon. It's going to bring a few snow showers up north as well, but we will avoid that. So I mentioned we still have a couple cold weather alerts, all right? We still have the extreme cold warning out west here. We have the advisory, but I'm showing you this because look at how far south that cold air has navigated, all the way down to Texas and into the deep south. Again, we are in that cold weather alert, the advisory until 9 a.m., indicating wind chill about 25 below. All right, we get to the afternoon, we get back to the positive. Here comes those clouds I was just pointing out on the satellite, 1 to 3 p.m. We will remain dry today, but I do have a chance for maybe a little bit of precipitation as we go into early next week with some warmer air. That's the important part. So we'll talk more about that coming up at 8:30.
All right. Joseph, thank you. Let's take a look now at your next drive. Things have started to get busy on this Wednesday morning here. We do have a couple of crashes that came up now. Not clear if this is due to black ice because that exhaust might be freezing on the road. But we don't usually see this many crashes this time of morning, so just be careful if you are headed out there. Let's start you out here in St. Paul. So this is 35E. This is going northbound. It's right at Highway 13 over near Shepherd Road there. So just you'll have a bit of a slowdown if you're coming through that area. I also want to take you up to Brooklyn Park. This one here, this is 610 westbound. It's right at Noble. No injuries here. Off to the side of the road, but again, we know Wednesday mornings are busy, so anything out of the ordinary slows people down just a little bit. So, Adam, any Minnesota Timberwolves game, you'll find tens of thousands of fans cheering on their team.
And this week, Adam Duxter and photojournalist Nick Luneman introduces to one of them, whose story will likely find you cheering for him.
I wonder how much those basketballs are.
On the surface, Jace Coble
Ooh, I wonder what those are.
is a kid in a candy store.
How much are those basketballs?
But behind the courtside grin, ear to ear,
I don't know anybody except for Anthony.
a kid going through so much more. So close to the action, Jace not here out of privilege. Rather, relief.
He loves going to the games. He thinks that that's just super fun. He gets into it. He likes the crowd.
Months ago, in a different crowd, is where Jace's story starts, with an urgent message to his favorite player.
It said, "Hey, JJ, help me beat cancer."
One his mom, Becky, knows.
So, in November of last year,
is bigger than any game.
Jace was just outside playing with a friend, and he came running home crying. They had been having a snowball fight, and he had gotten hit in the face.
Oh, come on.
We didn't really think anything of it other than, you know, you got hurt, but you're okay.
The next day,
I got a phone call from the school nurse that he just wasn't himself.
so they went to the pediatrician.
She had him just stand, and she was going to have him walk to kind of watch. And she immediately told us that we needed to go to Children's.
A CT scan revealing the worst.
I said, "Can we just do one?" And that's when they found that there was a tumor.
At 7 years old, Jace up against the biggest opponent anyone could ever face.
He has a type of tumor called a diffuse midline glioma.
DMG, ultra-rare cancer that's highly dangerous.
These tumor cells just are pretty resistant to our treatments, and we can't surgically remove them.
Like Conley?
But a true sports fan, Jace is willing to do what it takes to win, including a clinical trial.
The way that vaccine therapies work is they rev up your immune system to recognize your tumor as being foreign.
His mom hopes can save him and others with DMG for years to come.
It's not rare. It's so prevalent in so many people's lives. You know, their families know that there's not enough out there for kids like Jace.
Monthly treatments.
Scared?
A little scared, yeah.
But still time to be a kid.
But you're brave.
Giving new meaning of what it means to win. With photojournalist Nick Luneman, Adam Duxter, WCCO News.
Look at that sense of wonderment on his face.
Yeah, what a great story from Adam there, and we're all pulling for you, Jace, for sure. Their surprise team and the state tourney coming up. Why their coach will watch them perform from the hospital.
Then, when he's not playing college ball, he's taking photographs from the sidelines for the Wolves. See the support he's getting from both teams. It's all coming up next.
The Holy Family girls hockey team finally got that monkey off their back. They made it to the first state tournament in the season, but that did include a traumatic accident on the ice. Ren Clayton has the story following the Fire's biggest win ever.
A long time coming.
A crazy experience, and like beating them, it was just like we almost like didn't even know how to like we didn't know anything besides just go hug each other.
In Friday's section final, Holy Family pulled off a comeback overtime upset over #1 in the state, Minnetonka. Maëlle Schugel picked a good time for her first goal of the season.
I just shot it and it went in, and it was just crazy to even think, and I was just in straight denial. Like, I was like, did that even just happen?
Previously, Minnetonka had eliminated the Fire in 4 straight section championships, a bleak streak.
Those were tough, but you know, it also keeps you coming back and drives you for that feeling what they got Friday night.
A mountaintop in school history, in a season with deep valleys. Just a few weeks ago, Holy Family assistant coach Jason Jensen suffered a major head injury during practice. He's still in the hospital fighting.
It was traumatizing and more so for you know, teenage girls to see up close.
Practice looks a bit different now. Coaches don helmets and stickers cling to those. The kids still working through.
It just like really motivated us to like put all of our effort forth to help like get to state and hopefully win, and just like it kind of motivated us in a way, like on and off the ice, to bring us closer.
And this week, a chance for a punctuation in the Fire's first ever state hockey tournament.
I'm more than excited and can't wait to just be there, and I just can't wait to take all the experience and all of it in.
In Victoria, Ren Clayton, WCCO Sports.
So that tournament, it starts today. It's at the Xcel Energy Center with the Class A quarterfinals. Let's check in with Mike Max with a look at what's coming up in sports.
The Minnesota Wild are back at practice. The Four Nations continues tomorrow with a championship game against Canada. We'll hear from Matt Boldy of the Wild, who will play in that game later at 6 o'clock on WCCO TV. How's this for a story? McAllister's Rob Grace is their point guard, but above and beyond that, he's a videographer for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Yeah, he splits his time, basketball both ways, and he loves it.
It's definitely a dream come true for me to be able to be still in school and to play basketball and to be able to do the job that I love doing at a really high level, and so it's definitely a crazy feeling.
More coming up at 6 and 10, including a look at Rob McClanahan, the former Miracle on Ice player, who's now in his final year coaching high school hockey. That and much more on WCCO TV. For CBS News Minnesota, I'm Mike Max, and that is your morning look at sports.
Coming up, we'll have another update on your next weather, plus more of this morning's top headlines. Then it is the second winter we've seen below average snowfall. So what happens if we don't get enough snow? It's a good question. Plus, AI and smart technology could be scary, but for some researchers, it's unlocking the key to saving marine life. You can see how coming up. Oh, no.
You're watching WCCO Mornings, always streaming on CBS News Minnesota.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Pauline Lee. Joseph Dames will have your next weather forecast in just a minute. But first, it's a major step towards getting legal weed businesses going here in Minnesota. The Office of Cannabis Management announced it was accepting business applications from both social equity applicants and the general public. A lottery this summer will determine who gets them. Cannabis leaders have said that they hope to open the state's first dispensaries sometime this year. A Ramsey County court has decided a lawsuit against ExxonMobil, Koch Industries, and the American Petroleum Institute can move forward. Attorney General Keith Ellison brought the lawsuit claiming they purposely prioritize profits over the people of Minnesota. Ellison sued them for systematically deceiving Minnesotans about the true causes of cost of climate change. He also claimed that they violate state consumer laws. The companies hit back, moving the case to federal court, saying that Ellison has no authority over them. In January of last year, the U.S. Supreme Court determined they would not have heard their appeal. Now, since then, the lawsuit has been moving through the state court, and there are 30 similar lawsuits against the oil industry right now. Let's check out your next drive right now, because we do have at least some good news here as you're taking a live look here at 694 westbound at 5th. You can see there is an issue just right under the bridge there. That just moved right under the bridge earlier. It was actually where the on and off ramp kind of connects with the main interstate there. But this is in the New Brighton area, so just a heads up, and it's westbound near 5th Street here, near Long Lake Road. So just a heads up if you're heading out that way. Let's get a check of our forecast now with meteorologist Joseph Dames.
Hey, Pauline, good morning to you. Still a cold morning. Still very, very cold. In fact, 8 below right now in the Twin Cities. Feels like 25 below. That's why we still have a cold weather advisory until 9 a.m. All right, we get to the positive numbers by lunchtime. About 1 degree with clouds streaming on through. I'll leave you here with the highs for today. If you join us at 8:30 at CBS News Minnesota, of updates on your weekend forecasts. We'll see you then.
You're watching WCCO Mornings, always streaming on CBS News Minnesota.
Next on WCCO Mornings, a harrowing plane crash leaves 80 survivors shaken but grateful to even be alive. The unanswered questions they still have for Delta. Then dial N for no, which metro district just bans cell phone use in school. Plus, silencing a senator, why Republicans say a DFL lawmaker accused of burglary should be stripped of her powers. And later, an activist released after 50 years in prison. As supporters rejoice why the FBI director says his release won't bring relief. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to WCCO Mornings, streaming live on CBS News Minnesota. I'm Pauline Lee. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's get straight to your top headlines this morning, because a Maple Plain man is finally back home after a Delta flight crash-landed in Toronto on Monday afternoon after taking off from Minneapolis. Matt Cunningham says he walked into a big pile of hugs when he got home, but he and so many others are still wondering how this all happened in the first place. He was one of the 80 people on board when that plane came in hard for a landing. You see it here, losing a wing, flipping upside down and catching fire. He says he was sitting in a window seat about 8 rows back from the exit row in the front of the plane, and he remembers the passenger next to him helping him get his seatbelt off as they fell onto the luggage overhead compartments now below them and trying to reorient themselves on an upside down plane. Well, here's what he said he saw and heard happen next.
There was some shouting back and forth. Is somebody opening the doors? You know, we need to get off this plane. The smell of jet fuel became very strong. We could see jet fuel going over the windows, pooling up. Seeing the videos today of the fireball we landed in, it just seems inconceivable that we weren't on fire.
Now, 2 people still remain in the hospital in critical condition. Air officials now say 21 of the 80 people on board were hurt. Well, one critical reason why everyone survived was the speed in getting every passenger off the upside-down plane. It only took a matter of minutes.
This is the reason that we are on the plane, is to evacuate passengers from a crash landing like this safely. And they did that, all 80 people. Now, they did their jobs perfectly.
Now, we hear about the next briefing. When we hear about the next briefing, that is, we'll be sure to bring that to you. So watch for updates on air and online at WCCO.com. New this morning, the St. Paul Public Schools Board of Education made some couple of changes that will affect your kids. Last night, the board approved Dr. Stacy Stanley as the next superintendent. She'll be starting on May 12th. They also passed new rules regarding student cell phone use. Cell phones and personal electronic devices will no longer be allowed during school hours, and they can either leave their phones at home, in their lockers, or turn it off and keep it out of sight. The rules go into effect this fall. Today, a unique celebration is being held to welcome Leonard Peltier home. The 80-year-old Indigenous activist was serving a life sentence for the deaths of 2 FBI agents. They were killed during a standoff on the Pine Ridge Indian Reserve in South Dakota back in 1975. Former President Joe Biden commuted his sentence right before leaving office. And today, the NDN Collective, which is an Indigenous active and advocacy organization, is hosting a Welcome Home event for Peltier in North Dakota. You can stream it live on the NDN Collective's Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn accounts. New ethics complaints against DFL Senator Nicole Mitchell. They now come on the heels of a new felony charge against her for allegedly breaking into her stepmother's home last April. Mitchell says she's innocent, and a trial won't be happening until after the session is over. But as our Caroline Cummings reports, her GOP colleagues say she should face consequences in the chamber sooner.
The motion prevails. Last month, Senate Republicans tried to force a vote to oust DFL Senator Nicole Mitchell from the chamber due to those felony charges, but she was the deciding vote blocking that from happening.
Members read these rules, members follow these rules. This one doesn't.
GOP members say that vote is a clear violation of Senate rules against conflicts of interest, since she has a personal and financial stake in her political future. And it's the foundation of a new ethics complaint accusing her of betraying the public's trust and bringing the Senate into dishonor and disrepute. They're also amending an earlier complaint against her to include the new felony charge, possession of theft tools related to that alleged burglary last spring.
So when you're constantly having party line votes, 34, 33, over and over again, and you have somebody that's been accused of 2 felony level crimes, she's the one that's casting the deciding vote on a lot of these cases. That really brings into question what we're doing in the Minnesota Senate.
The ethics panel is divided equally among Republicans and Democrats, and it so far hasn't taken any action on the first complaint, delayed at least until there's new evidence. Now it'll meet again to hear the new one. Mitchell successfully sought a delay in her trial until after session is over. That's because there's a state law that protects lawmakers from court proceedings when they have to be in St. Paul, and Republicans say they want to consider changing that statute to keep that from happening in the future. In St. Paul, Caroline Cummings, WCCO News.
Mitchell's attorney said that he didn't have any comments on the new ethics complaint, but we'll be following that story closely. As for the new felony charge, he said that in part, quote, for anyone to read an amended complaint and believe that they have seen new evidence shows that they do not understand what evidence is, since a criminal complaint is always and only an accusation. It is not evidence. Lawmakers are discussing a range of bills, by the way, for helping you put food on the table to help making your gas cheaper. So first off, a House committee wants to repeal state laws that protect trans women and girls and ban them from competing in women's sports. No, this comes after President Trump's executive order. The House is also wanting to repeal restrictions on what features are allowed in electronic pull tab games. In 2023, the legislature prohibited elements that would mimic video slot machines like free plays and bonus games and open all features. Charities and youth organizations benefit from the money generated by these games at bars and restaurants. They warn that the restrictions would cause their revenues to plummet. To the Senate now, where they're discussing a bill that would increase funding for food shelves over the next 2 years. According to the Food Group Minnesota, the food shelf visits are on the rise. Well, they say there were 7.5 million visits in 2023 and 9 million in 2024. Now, this new bill would provide $8 million in funding for food shelves. And lastly, U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar, along with the support of 13 senators from both sides of the aisle, pushing to make E15 available year-round. Now, E15 is a gasoline with ethanol blends higher than 10%. Supporters say this will lower fuel costs and help farmers and consumers. The Environmental Protection Agency used to ban year-round sales. That's because of concerns about the air pollution in the summer. But last year, the EPA allowed year-round sales in 8 Midwestern states. All right, let's switch gears and talk about the weather. Let's take a live look outside. Buck Hill Sky Cam here. As you can see, the slopes, they are empty. They were closed yesterday because it was just so cold outside. But good news is they're opening back up at 10 o'clock this morning. Still, though, very, very cold. Even though they're opening, just do bundle up, Joseph, as you head outside.
Yeah, it is very cold. I mean, we've had wind chills this morning, Pauline, about 30 below. That's the third morning in a row. In fact, we haven't had a wind chill that's been above 0 as a minimum since February 2nd. Every other day we've been seeing wind chills below 0 at some point in the day. All right, so Buck Hill's a great place, right? Obviously it's been a little cold and maybe you haven't been able to get out there, but there's still snow on the ground because it's been so cold, so we've been preserving that. Will we see some more snowfall coming up? We'll talk about that here in just 1 second. Still dangerously cold this morning, all right? Even though we're not going with the next weather alert, this is day 3 where we do have some very cold air out there, and it's not really going anywhere for the full day, all right? It's still going to be very cold even this afternoon, even though we will kind of crawl our way back into the positive numbers as we get into this afternoon. All right, I will promise you this, 30s and 40s arriving this weekend. It doesn't seem like there's really anything that could push that out of the forecast, so we're pretty much going to solidify that coming up, so you have at least something to look forward to as far as temperatures go. If you like the cold, then you're good, but it will just feel a little bit better and it will be more safe for the collection of people here as we get into the weekend. Precip chances do increase, as I mentioned, as we head into early next week, so there may be a shot for some snow. There also might be a chance for a little bit of rain, so we'll get to that here in just one moment. Temperatures up north today. Yeah, single digits, but on the positive side. Grand Rapids at 7. Over towards Bemidji, a high of 5. You see these snow icons? Yeah, there's going to be a little disturbance that comes off of Lake Superior. It's going to bring snow for some of you, all right? So expect some snow showers from Deer River to Grand Rapids and all the points in between, all the communities. Still cold, though, all right? Still in the single digits. It's going to be a very, very light, fluffy snow for you folks up there. 6 for Waconia, 7 today in St. Cloud. St. Croix Falls today about 10 degrees down through Albert Lee at 3 in Samantha's location. Weather Watcher Network coming in at Albertana. at 4 degrees. And along the bluffs of the Mississippi today, temperatures trying to get to about 10. Hey, I want to point this out. Our average high temperature now is 30. This weekend, it's 31. We're getting higher and higher, right? So it's just a sign that we're working our way through winter here. And even though we are in a very cold stretch right now, our chances to see something like this again, an Arctic blast this winter, is very, very low once we get through this, all right? So just, again, hang in there. We're almost out of it. All right, I mentioned the cloud coverage and the snowfall up north. You can see that over Lake Superior. It will be traveling southwestward, all right? It's not away from us. It's actually going to be pushing towards us. That's going to increase our cloud coverage this afternoon. It's been great seeing all that sunshine. It's been really great if you're like reading a book near the window and it's warm, but today those clouds take over, so do not anticipate as much sunshine today, at least here locally. 15 degrees tomorrow for the high in the Twin Cities, but look at the weekend. If you're going up even to Lutsen, some fresh snowfall on the ground, temperatures in the 20s and 30s over at Afton. I have about 41 degrees there on Sunday, and over towards Hayward. All right, temperatures in the 20s and 30s, a little mix of sunshine, some clouds, and everybody collectively by Sunday feeling warmer. Did you see those snow icons on Sunday, though? Let me point out what's coming up. All right, we cruise through the next couple of days. You don't really have anything to really worry about Friday into Saturday. Once we get into Saturday and Sunday, though, we start noticing some changes in the forecasts. Model data is taking some time to load up there. But notice by Sunday night, here comes a system, and that is why we're maybe picking up on a little bit of snowfall in some locations on Sunday. A lot of green, though. That's because the air is going to be pretty warm. Now models are also depicting maybe some precipitation on Monday, also looking like maybe a cold rain with temperatures in the 40s. This is something we're going to keep an eye on because maybe Monday night that could transition over to some ice, a wintry mix, which could potentially lead to some problems Tuesday morning. For now, I'm just going to go with a chance for some precipitation. It's not promised at this point, but we're keeping an eye on it. All right, Pauline, 6 to 15 to 25. We know the weekend's going to be nice and warm. We'll hold into the 40s there early next week.
All right, looking forward to the 40s. Joseph, thanks. Sure. Let's check out your next drive right now because we're at least improving this morning. We had a handful of crashes earlier this morning. Now we're down to 3 on our Metro-wide map here. But for the most part, most of these are off to the side, not really impacting traffic. This one's a new one here that just popped up. This one's in Maplewood, 494 and Lake Road. You see the semi off to the side. Again, it's off to the side, not blocking traffic. Just a semi having some issues out there. So you might be running into this if this is on your route this morning. But for the most part, we're doing pretty good. You do see the camera shaking about, though. It is windy. It is still very cold outside, so do bundle up. Well, AI is already making our lives easier, and it's now helping to protect precious ecosystems. Scientists are using the technology to do what people can't, speed up conservation efforts. John Paul Gonzo has a story.
Diving into the deep blue, these conservationists are on a mission to protect this marine marvel off France's Réunion Island. They're using underwater microphones to record the sounds of the sea, to monitor the health of coral reefs in the Indian Ocean. To make sense of that audio, they've turned to AI. Artificial intelligence can help process years of data in a few minutes or hours, this researcher says. That makes it quicker and easier to work out the problems facing this paradise so it can be better protected. Scientists say it's proof technology could help turn the tide on environmental threats. John Paul Gonzo, CBS News, London.
Our oceans are particularly prone to climate change. Scientists say up to 90% of the world's coral reefs could disappear by 2050. That's if greenhouse gas emissions aren't reduced. Well, coming up, another update on weather, plus more of this morning's top headlines. Then, finally, a green light. The latest steps for Minnesota businesses hoping to get a license to sell cannabis. That story coming up after the break. Welcome back, everyone. Now to a major step forward, getting legal weed businesses going here in Minnesota. The Office of Cannabis Management announced that it is now accepting business applications from both social equity applicants and from the general public. A lottery this summer will determine who gets them. Cannabis leaders have said that they hope to open the state's first dispensaries sometime this year. Now, you might not believe it because the weather this week, but we don't have much winter left. That's despite the cold this season. Twin Cities has only seen about 16 inches of snow so far, so that's well below the 3 feet that we typically have piled up on the ground by now. So we asked environmentalists what the lack of snow means for Minnesota. Well, they say consecutive years without big spring melts will slow tree growths. Now, plants with shallow roots, like those in your garden, they might die off without the insulation from snow, too. And while plants with deeper roots, like some weeds, can thrive, it could also lessen how many seeds or fruits a plant might bear. Winter air also speeds up water evaporation, and ice layers can protect lakes from that. But ice needs snow to cover to reflect from the UV rays. Otherwise, it melts faster and sooner, exposing water.
We rely on a lot of snow for bringing in water early in the spring when it melts. And that's a time when the trees are having big bursts of growth and they need that water.
Well, not only does a heavy melt provide plants with water while quickly replenishing lake levels, it brings nutrients that are key to a body of water's ecology. A pattern of dry winters makes waterways more reliant on spring and summer rains to remain healthy. Let's take a live look outside right now. Over downtown Minneapolis, clear blue skies. Once again, third day in a row that we are experiencing these bitterly cold temperatures. Just a little bit warmer than yesterday, which is good, but still very, very cold. So let's time out your day with next weather meteorologist Joseph Dames.
Well, good morning to everyone and happy Wednesday. Still very, very cold out there this morning, this afternoon as well. Highs today about 6 degrees around the area. Waconia today coming in about 6 degrees. And you'll see that around Minneapolis, down through Roseville, through Lino Lakes and White Bear Lake today. It's in the positives at least, all right? Monday, we stayed in the negatives all day. Cottage Grove today, a high of 6, and Hampton, a high of 7. We will have more cloud coverage in the afternoon.
Joseph, thanks. And now let's check out what's happening in your next weather lens and see what's happening in your neck of the woods. Check out this photo here from Annette from Orr, Minnesota, saying, reflecting on days of ice fishing. Yes, hopefully you can enjoy some ice fishing out this season. And then this one here from Doug in Hudson. Look at that. Active pictures of swans. He says the tundra weather has no effect on the swans. I love that active picture there. So picturesque. And here's a photo from Adam and Annadale. He says this new forest ranger is pretty cute. Love that as well. Thank you so much for sending in your photos. If you do see, I should say, news or weather in your neighborhood, do share your videos, your pictures with us anytime. You can always find us on WCCO.com/photos. Well, as always, we'll continue to keep you up to date with the latest news and weather developments all day right here on the stream. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back after a quick break.